biggest plot twist in Chapter 30 is coming, and in 1 or 2 days, spoilers for Chapter 30 Part 1 will be released. But before that, I found a clue or hint, or maybe even a prediction that I think will be quite exciting in the next 8 minutes. But before that, please help me fix the algorithm by leaving a like or subs, and if you see the hype button, feel free to tap it. Thanks so much, guys. So yeah, first and foremost, to predict all the scenarios, drama, or even plot twists that will happen, and also to represent the entire story that will unfold in Chapter 30. How about we start with something simple but important? Yep, the cover. And at least these 3 or 4 characters seem to have great potential to fill the cover in Chapter 30. Starting with Kashin Koji, Shikamaru or Konohamaru, and one unexpected character is Code. Yep, for the umpteenth time, Code is one of the characters we're really waiting for. And of course, not choosing Boruto or even Momoshiki, it seems clear that they have both filled the cover positions in the last few chapters. Yeah, that's how it is. So starting with Kashin Koji. In this case, especially seeing how the entire Konoha operation against Mamushi went, there was a moment that Ikemoto left at the end. And of course, this leaves so many mysteries or perhaps big question marks. What actually happened and what made him express himself like that when the mission was going smoothly without any intervention or interference from outside parties? Yeah, you know what I mean, right? Because as we've discussed before, starting from the future that has unexpectedly changed again, of course, it also has something to do with several things that could be said to be plot twists that trigger the future to change without any intervention from the singularity of fate itself. What I mean is a probability where, besides the singularity of fate, there is another entity that, without us expecting it, can also cause the future to branch out further. Because once again, based on what has happened recently, especially with Mamushi's movements being much earlier than Kashin Koji predicted, at least that is enough to prove that changes in the future, or even changes in destiny, have changed without any action from the singularity of fate. So it also means that with Kashin Koji as the cover, at the very least, we would get some new information from an expression that most people would certainly not consider a coincidence, right? Moreover, the fact is that in this operation, Kashin Koji entrusted it to Shikamaru and Boruto, so at least he remains the main character in this operation. Next is Shikamaru or even Konohamaru. But for some reason, I feel like my intuition is stronger towards Shikamaru than Konohamaru. And of course, this may also be the reason why Kashin Koji showed an unusual expression at the end of the panel. And for some reason, especially if Shikamaru ends up being the cover, all of this is certainly because of Konohamaru's actions, or perhaps because of the decision he made. Whatever he was thinking, and whatever prevented him from fully considering the consequences of his decision to tell Lord Kobu that Boruto's escape happened because of him, or because of the mistake he deliberately made by not properly locking the cuffs on Boruto, Konohamaru's choice to confess only made Shikamaru's position even more difficult. Instead of trying to save Mitsuki and sacrificing himself in front of Lord Kobu, Konohamaru foolishly didn't really consider the possibility that something much worse could happen to Shikamaru. Yeah, you know what I mean, right? This should have been a good opportunity to keep Mitsuki safe from interrogation, but thanks to Konohamaru, Shikamaru ended up in even more serious trouble. So in other words, predicting Shikamaru as a cover, this will certainly represent all the problems that will happen to him. Or perhaps more accurately, this will become an assessment or even a major consideration. If Shikamaru is truly identified as being affiliated with Boruto and helping him escape, then one bad thing is certain: Konoha will definitely remove him from his position as Hokage. We also know that in the interrogations in the last few chapters, thanks to Konohamaru trying to protect Boruto from the accusations of the Konoha elders, Koji, who saw how Konohamaru defended him, let him go instead of detaining him like Shikamaru did. As a result, Konohamaru was suspected and had to be interrogated. And at this point, regardless of whether Shikamaru will be removed as Hokage or not, he at least has a high potential to be ousted as Hokage. And if that happens, Kashin Koji will certainly be in trouble. Because after all, Koji has said that no matter what happens, Shikamaru must remain Hokage. So once again, if Shikamaru becomes the cover, at least it will provide an answer or perhaps a new clue about the issues that will arise for him next. Whether it's a good decision or even a bad one, that's just how it is, right? Last but not least is Code. Yes, for some reason over the past few days, I've been trying to see how you guys respond to Code, who hasn't appeared in a long time, especially since Code hasn't been on the cover since the time skip. But if we're talking percentages, I think the chances of Code being on the cover are no more than 55%. For example, in the midst of Mamushi's intervention in Konoha, Code finally returns. Yeah, I know that might be a bad title, but what do you think? And speaking of predictions about how Code will appear, at least based on the community's response, one of the most interesting ideas is that Code might show up not as an enemy. Instead, he could be affiliated with Boruto and Kawaki to take down the Divine Tree humans, especially Jura. I know this might sound crazy or even unrealistic, but did you know that perhaps in that way, Code could take his revenge on Jura? Because at the very least, that's how the community responds when it comes to predicting his appearance or the move he should take. But to be honest, in the case where Code affiliates or joins Boruto and Kawaki, this is difficult, especially if Code's goal is to betray them. Because after all, Boruto has two partners and they both have the ability to see the future. So, simply put, it's quite difficult to say that Code will choose that path, because at the very least, Koji or even Momoshiki must have seen what will happen next in the future. Because after all, this certainly sounds quite difficult, right? But what do you think? So yeah, to predict the rest of what will happen in Chapter 30, I probably won't talk too much. Not only because it would be nonsense, but it's also impossible for everything to be resolved in one chapter. You know what I mean, right? So at least for a brief prediction of Chapter 30, one thing that is certain is that the battle between Mamushi and the Konoha Shinobi will continue. But in this prediction, if you see that this operation is proceeding without any intervention, especially according to Kashin Koji, if the battle takes place in Konoha, then even if Himawari and Boruto are involved in the battle, Jura will not appear. But since this is a prediction, I suspect that what Kashin Koji said won't be 100% valid. In other words, intervention should occur, whether it's from Jura or even Hidari himself, because at least there's a glimpse of the future in the middle of Jura's battle against Boruto in the Land of Wind, where we see Hidari and Sarada. I mean, if Jura still doesn't appear as an intervention, at least Hidari has great potential to intervene in the middle of Mamushi's invasion of Konoha. But what do you guys think? What percentage chance do you think Hidari will appear in Chapter 30? And for my last prediction, for some reason, I'm very interested in a new power from Himawari. I mean, after Kurama trained Himawari, there should be a new power or even a new ability that Himawari has mastered. So logically, is it possible that in Chapter 30, Ikamoto will reveal Himawari's new power? Yeah, whatever your opinions are, and if you have predictions that are even more interesting than this, let's chat in the comments. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. I'm Nim without the E. See you in the next video. Bye bye, Databayo.